You don't own this house anymore. We sold it. Don't come back here. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. My name is Emily. I'm 27 years old, and that was the moment I learned what it feels like when home spits you out. When the people who brought you into this world look you dead in the eye and tell you that the walls you grew up touching, the floors you learned to walk on, the ceiling that sheltered your dreams, none of it belongs to you anymore. My heart was racing so fast I thought it might explode right there on the front porch. Memories flashed through my mind like a broken film reel, me at 6 years old, running down these same hallways. Christmas mornings in the living room. The scratch marks on the kitchen door frame where they measured my height every birthday. All of it. Gone. Erased. Like I never existed at all. My world collapsed in one sentence. 27 years of life. 27 years of calling this place home, and it all crumbled with 10 simple words delivered by the woman who gave birth to me. Before we go any further, I need you to do something for me. Drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in the UK, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in Australia, I want to know. Don't just sit back like a passive observer. Tell me where in the world you are right now, because this story, my story, it's happening in real time, and I need to know I'm not alone in this darkness. Now, let's dive into what happened next. I packed my things in garbage bags. Not suitcases, garbage bags. Because that's what I felt like. Garbage being thrown out of the only home I'd ever known. Every item I touched burned my fingers with memories. My old journals from high school. The sweater my grandmother knitted me before she died. Photo albums filled with family pictures that now felt like lies. Sarah let me crash on her couch, bless her heart, but sleeping in someone else's space when you've been ripped from your own, it's a special kind of hell. The couch smelled like her dog and fabric softener, nothing like the lavender my mother used to spray on my bedsheets. Every night, I'd lie there staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of someone else's life. The hum of their refrigerator was different. The way their floorboards creaked was wrong. Even the darkness felt foreign. And the whispers. God, the whispers followed me everywhere. At the grocery store, did you hear? Her own parents kicked her out. At the coffee shop where I'd been going since high school, something must have happened. Parents don't just throw their kids out for no reason. The way people looked at me changed overnight. Like I was carrying some invisible disease called family shame. The anger was eating me alive from the inside. But underneath that anger was something worse, confusion. 27 years of birthday parties, family dinners, Christmas mornings, and graduation celebrations. 27 years of we love you and we're proud of you and this will always be your home. How do you reconcile a lifetime of supposed love with 10 words that destroy everything you thought you knew about yourself? If you're watching this and haven't subscribed, imagine losing your home overnight, then tell me in the comments why you'd still scroll past instead of supporting stories like this. Because right now, as I'm telling you about the worst betrayal of my life, someone out there is choosing to consume my pain without giving anything back. Sound familiar? 3 days into my exile, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer because I was tired of people calling to offer their fake sympathy or dig for gossip. But something made me pick up. Miss Anderson? This is Robert Sterling from Sterling and Associates Law Firm. I need to speak with you about your parents' house. My blood ran cold. What about it? They made it pretty clear I have no rights to anything. Actually, Miss Anderson, that's why I'm calling. There are some discrepancies in the deed that require your attention. Could you come to my office tomorrow? Discrepancies. That word echoed in my head all night. What kind of discrepancies? What weren't they telling me? And why was a lawyer calling me if I supposedly had no claim to anything? The next morning, I sat in Sterling's office while he spread papers across his mahogany desk like he was dealing cards that would determine my fate. The deed to the house, transfer documents, financial records, pages and pages of legal jargon that made my head spin. Miss Anderson, your name appears on several documents related to this property. Old documents that predate the sale. Documents your parents apparently forgot existed. My hands started shaking. What does that mean? It means the sale wasn't entirely legal. Your parents didn't have full authority to sell that house without your consent. The room spun around me. All that pain, all that shame, all those sleepless nights on Sarah's couch, and they couldn't even legally do what they did to me? That afternoon, I got another call. This time from Mrs. Patterson, the woman who bought my childhood home. Emily? I hope you don't mind me calling. I found your number in some old documents in the house. There are boxes in the basement with your name on them, and some legal papers that have me concerned. Would you be willing to come by? I think there are things you need to see. Would I walk back into that house? The house that spat me out? The house where my own parents looked me in the eye and told me I didn't belong? Hell yes, I would. I ignored 17 phone calls from my parents that week. 17. Each voicemail more desperate than the last. Emily, please call us back. We can explain everything. Sweetheart, you're not understanding the full situation. Emily, we love you. We never wanted to hurt you. Please, just come talk to us. It's not what you think. We're worried sick. At least let us know you're okay. Emily, we made a mistake. Please come home. Home. They used that word like it still meant something. Like they hadn't stripped it of all meaning when they told me I didn't own it anymore. I played those voicemails for Sterling during our second meeting. He leaned back in his leather chair and shook his head. Emily, let me give you some advice I learned in 30 years of practicing law. Don't rush into anything. Don't respond to their panic. Let them sweat. Right now, they're discovering that their little plan has some serious legal complications, and they're terrified. He was right. For the first time since this nightmare began, I held the power. They were the ones scrambling, the ones afraid, the ones begging for communication. The dynamic had shifted, and they could feel it. Sometimes silence is the loudest weapon you can wield, Sterling told me. Your parents are learning that lesson right now. Drop the word silence in the comments if you believe silence speaks louder than begging words. Because for 27 years, I listened to everything they told me. I believed their promises, their declarations of love, their assurances that I would always belong. Now it was their turn to listen to nothing and understand what that felt like. The dinner invitation came on a Thursday. My mother's voice on the voicemail was carefully controlled, artificially sweet. Emily, we'd like to invite you to Sunday dinner. Just family. We really need to talk, and we think it would be better if we did it at home, around the table, like we used to. Please come. Please. I stared at my phone for a long time after that message ended. Part of me wanted to delete it and pretend I never heard it. Part of me wanted to call back screaming. But a bigger part of me, the part that had been growing stronger every day since I learned the truth about the deed, that part wanted to see their faces when I walked through that door knowing what I knew. I called back and left my own message. Short. Simple. Cold. I'll be there at 6. Sunday evening, I stood on the front porch of the house where I used to live. The same porch where they destroyed my world with 10 words. But this time, I wasn't the broken, confused girl who'd packed her life into garbage bags. This time, I had legal documents in my purse and the truth on my side. I knocked instead of using my key. Because I wasn't family anymore, right? I was a guest now. An unwelcome one, but a guest nonetheless. My father opened the door with a smile so fake it could have been made of plastic. Emily, come in, come in. You look wonderful. I looked wonderful. That was rich. I looked like someone who'd been sleeping on a friend's couch for 2 weeks because her own parents threw her out. But I walked past him without a word and into the dining room where they'd set the table for 3. 3, not 4. They'd already erased my regular spot. My mother appeared from the kitchen carrying a casserole dish, her own fake smile plastered across her face. I made your favorite. Tuna noodle casserole with the potato chip topping. My favorite when I was 12, maybe. But they never bothered to learn that my tastes had changed, had they? They never bothered to learn who I'd become as an adult because they were too busy planning how to get rid of me. We sat down at that table where I'd eaten thousands of meals, where we'd celebrated birthdays and holidays, where they'd helped me with homework and listened to my problems. The same table where they were now preparing to feed me lies along with overcooked noodles. If you've watched this far and still haven't subscribed, maybe you don't realize this is just heating up. Why hold back support if you've come this far? Because what happened next changed everything, and if you think you can just consume this story without giving anything back, you're no better than the people who betrayed me. They waited until I'd taken a few bites before launching into their rehearsed speech. Emily, my father began, his voice taking on that patronizing tone I'd heard my entire life. We want you to understand that selling the house wasn't personal. It was just business. We thought you'd understand, being an adult and all. Just business. My childhood home, the place where I took my first steps and said my first words, where I cried over heartbreaks and celebrated achievements, just business. My mother nodded along like a bobblehead doll. We never meant for you to feel unwelcome. We just thought it was time for you to be more independent. You're 27, Emily. Most people your age have their own places. I set down my fork and looked at them. Really looked at them. These people who'd raised me, who'd supposedly loved me, who were now sitting there trying to gasify their betrayal with corporate speak and victim blaming. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice deadly calm. You sold the house I grew up in, the house where all my memories live, the house you told me would always be my home, and you did it without telling me, without consulting me, without even giving me a chance to say goodbye. And you're calling it just business? My father shifted in his chair. Emily, you have to understand. No. I cut him off. No, I don't have to understand anything. But you need to understand this. It wasn't about independence. It wasn't about business. It was about control. It was about reminding me that even as an adult, even after 27 years of life, you could still make me feel like nothing. You could still take away everything that mattered to me and call it love. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the wall clock ticking, the same clock that had measured out my entire childhood. Tick, 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 marking the seconds of this confrontation that had been building for weeks. That's not true, my mother whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Isn't it? I pulled the legal documents from my purse and spread them across their perfectly set table, right next to the tuna casserole that was supposed to make everything better. Because these documents tell a different story. These documents show that you never had the legal right to sell this house without my consent. These documents prove that your business decision was actually fraud. The color drained from both their faces. My father's hands started shaking as he reached for the papers. Where did you get these? He demanded. From a lawyer. You know, one of those people who deals with legal matters? The kind of person you probably should have consulted before you decided to commit fraud. My mother started crying. Real tears this time, not the crocodile tears she'd perfected over the years. Emily, we can fix this. We can make this right. Make it right? I stood up, towering over them for the first time in my life. You want to make it right? Here's what's right, admitting that you tried to steal my inheritance. Admitting that you sold property that wasn't entirely yours to sell. Admitting that when I needed my family most, you chose money over me. My father was reading the documents now, his face growing paler with each page. We didn't know. You didn't know because you didn't care enough to find out. You saw an opportunity to cash in and get rid of your adult daughter at the same time. 2 birds, 1 stone. How convenient. I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final blow. You know what the beautiful thing about truth is? It always comes out. And right now, Mrs. Patterson is in her lawyer's office learning about how you defrauded both her and me. Right now, the whole town is talking about what you did to your own daughter. Right now, your reputation is crumbling faster than this family. What would you have said if you were me in that moment? Comment it right now. I'm reading everything. Because I need to know that somewhere out there, someone understands the rage I felt standing in that dining room, surrounded by the ghosts of family dinners past. Word spreads fast in a small town. By Monday morning, everyone knew. The cashier at the grocery store couldn't meet my eyes, but I could hear her whispering to the next customer about that poor Anderson girl whose parents sold her house out from under her. At the post office, Mrs. Chin stopped me with genuine sympathy in her voice. "Emily, honey, I heard what happened. If you need anything at all, you just let me know." But the conversations I really wanted to hear were happening behind closed doors in the houses of my parents' friends and neighbors. Sarah filled me in on what she was hearing through the gossip network. "People are taking sides," she told me over coffee. "And most of them aren't taking your parents' side. Mrs. Rodriguez said she always thought there was something cold about your mother. The Johnsons said they can't imagine doing that to their own kids. Your parents are becoming social pariahs. The beautiful thing about small-town justice is that it's swift and merciless." My parents had built their reputation on being upstanding community members, involved in church, active in local organizations. They'd presented themselves as the perfect family with the perfect daughter. Now that perfect image was cracking like old paint. My brother called me that Tuesday. We hadn't spoken since the dinner incident, but I could hear the strain in his voice. "Emily, this is tearing the family apart. Mom's been crying for days. Dad won't come out of his office. The church is asking questions about their volunteer positions." "Good," I said. "Let it tear apart. It was built on lies anyway. That's not fair. They love you. They love the idea of me when it's convenient for them. When I'm the grateful daughter who doesn't ask too many questions and doesn't want too much. The minute I became inconvenient, they threw me away." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like, Michael? Explain to me how selling someone's childhood home without telling them is an act of love." Silence. That's what I thought. My sister called next. Then my aunt. Then my cousin. Each conversation the same desperate attempt to get me to forgive and forget and think about family. But none of them could answer the fundamental question: how do you forgive someone for erasing your existence? The town gossip reached its peak when someone started a thread about it on the local Facebook community page. I didn't see it myself. Sarah screenshotted it for me. Post after post of neighbors expressing their shock and disappointment. People sharing their own stories of family betrayal. A few defenders of my parents, but they were vastly outnumbered. My parents, who'd spent decades building their reputation as pillars of the community, were watching it crumble in real time. And the beautiful part? There was nothing they could do to stop it. The truth was out, and truth has a way of spreading like wildfire. Subscribe if you believe justice has a way of finding people who betray their own blood. Because what happened next proved that karma doesn't just exist, it has a legal department. The courthouse smelled like old wood and broken dreams. I sat in the gallery watching my parents squirm in their seats as their lawyer tried to explain why they'd sold property they didn't have full rights to sell. Judge Morrison, a stern woman in her 60s who'd been presiding over family disputes for decades, reviewed the documents with the kind of methodical precision that made my parents sweat through their Sunday best clothes. "Mr. and Mrs. Anderson," she said finally, her voice carrying the authority of 30 years on the bench. "These documents clearly show that your daughter Emily has legal claim to a portion of this property. Claims that predate your sale to Mrs. Patterson by several years." My father's lawyer, a nervous man who kept wiping his forehead with a handkerchief, tried to interject. "Your Honor, my clients were unaware of these earlier documents. Ignorance of the law is not a defense, Counselor. And ignorance of documents that were filed in this very courthouse is even less of one." I watched my parents sink lower in their chairs with each word. These people who'd raised me to respect authority, to follow rules, to always tell the truth, sitting there being lectured by a judge about their illegal actions. Judge Morrison turned her attention to me. "Miss Anderson, given the circumstances and the clear documentation of your legal rights, this court recognizes your claim to the property in question. The sale to Mrs. Patterson will need to be legally resolved, with compensation paid to all affected parties." The gavel came down with a finality that echoed through the courtroom. As we filed out, I walked past my parents without a word. My father reached out as if to touch my arm, but I pulled away. Emily, please, my mother started. I stopped and turned to face them one last time in that courthouse hallway. You erased me from the house, I said, my voice carrying clearly in the marble-walled space. Now the house has erased you. Their faces crumpled as the full weight of their actions and their consequences finally hit them. They'd lost their daughter, their reputation, their standing in the community, and now their legal position. All for what? A quick sale and the satisfaction of putting their adult child in her place? I walked out of that courthouse into the afternoon sunlight, leaving them standing there with their shame and their expensive lawyer who couldn't undo what they'd done. 2 months later, I'm sitting in a coffee shop 3 towns over, writing this story. The legal matters have been resolved. Mrs. Patterson got her money back and found another house. My parents had to pay significant damages, and I ended up with my rightful inheritance plus compensation for their fraud. But this isn't really about money. It never was. The last time I drove past my childhood home, there was a for sale sign in the yard again. The house sits empty now, a monument to family betrayal and the consequences of choosing control over love. My parents have tried to reach out through relatives, through mutual friends, through carefully worded letters that never quite contain an actual apology. They want reconciliation, they say. They want to put this behind us and move forward as a family. But here's what they don't understand. You can't betray someone's trust completely and then expect them to pretend it never happened. You can't erase someone from their own story and then demand to stay in theirs. I've built a new life now. New apartment, new friends, new routines that don't include family dinners at a table where I was never really welcome. Some people call it holding a grudge. I call it self-preservation. The truth is, they gave me a gift when they kicked me out. They showed me exactly who they were when they thought I had no power to fight back. They revealed that their love was conditional, their acceptance temporary, their promises worthless. They once called me a stranger. Now I truly am one, but by choice. And for the first time in 27 years, I'm okay with that. The sun is setting outside this coffee shop window, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Tomorrow, I'll wake up in my own space, surrounded by my own things, living my own life. No fake smiles, no conditional love, no fear that the people who are supposed to protect you might decide you're inconvenient. They thought they were teaching me a lesson about independence. Instead, they taught me something much more valuable, that family isn't about blood or shared DNA or the house you grew up in. Family is about people who show up for you when life gets hard, not people who make your life harder when it suits their purposes. What would you have done in my place? Be honest, drop it in the comments. Because this story isn't just about me. It's about everyone who's ever been betrayed by the people they trusted most. It's about the choice between enabling toxic behavior and protecting your own peace. If you can listen to all of this and still not subscribe, at least tell me why. Because turning away from truth when it's right in front of you, that's something I'll never understand. But maybe that's okay. Maybe some people aren't ready to face the darkness that lives in families, the cruelty that can hide behind words like love and home. The house that spat me out is empty now. But I'm not empty anymore. I'm full of truth, full of strength, full of the knowledge that I survived the worst betrayal imaginable and came out stronger on the other side. And that, more than any inheritance or legal victory, is worth everything. The coffee shop is closing now. Time to go home, to my real home, the one I built for myself, the one where I'll never have to wonder if I belong. Some stories don't have happy endings. Some stories just have true ones. This is mine.